Discovery number 5. Whatever happened to Richard Flanagan? Breckan opened Zoot's door, not bothering to knock in his excitement. Zoot! Breckan closed the door behind him. I've got something to tell you. But first, before I trust you, I want to know who you really are. Hmm? Said Zoot, blinking. He lay in his bed and had clearly been asleep just a moment ago. Now that Breckan got a better look at him, Zoot did not look well at all. His eyes were a bit dim, and his skin had taken a grayish sheen to it. Zoot, are you okay? I will be, he said, mumbling slightly and pressing himself into a sitting position. Have you been here all week? Pretty much. D- did? Breckan swallowed. Did they hit you? Zoot did not answer, but his shiny eyes and quivering face were enough. Jesus, said Breckan. Then they both were silent. You wanted to know who I am, you said Zoot, fumbling with his blankets and not meeting Breckan's eye. Breckan nodded. I suppose the truth must come out sometime, said Zoot, looking up again. So why not now? Then he sighed. My name is not really Zoot, as you might have guessed. That's just the name your parents gave me when they found me. It's it's really Richard. Richard, said Breckan, more to himself than anyone else. Me and my parents, we didn't really get along. It was fine when I was little, but when I got older, they expected me to be someone I wasn't. Whatever I did, I could never seem to live up to their expectations. They were never satisfied with me, and we started to have rows almost every night. In the end, I couldn't take it anymore, so I ran away from home. Zoot stared at the curtains, and Breckan saw a tear roll down his cheek. Your parents found me living on the street. They promised me a room of my own, and food and protection. I told them my story, and they said, Well, sounds like you've had it rough. Now we'll make sure you have no more of these troubles, Zoot. And I said, Zoot? And they said, Why, yes. We can't let you keep that old name of yours, now that you'll be going under cover. They told me they were scientists working on an important and very much secret project, and I believed them. So we struck a trade. They would let me live and hide in their facility, and in exchange I would help them with their research. Seems like a fair trade, right? I thought so at least. In fact, I was ecstatic. I had no idea what they were working on, but I knew it must be something big, since we were all holed up in this remote place, and even I had no idea where it was. I was so happy to be able to help them, and they were so nice to me. Zoot trailed off then and became silent. They were so nice. I wonder if that was a lie as well, or if they just got more warped as time went on. Breckan walked towards the bed and sat down. He put his hand on Zoot's hand and looked him in the eye. What happened next? Well, at first the things they made me do were easy. Reading tests, eye tests, blood pressure, IQ, and they were always kind afterwards and said I'd help them a great deal. But then something went wrong. They seemed to be making less progress than they wanted. I gauged from their frustration. And then they had this machine. It was a bit like a big helmet with wires and bolts and tons of other strange parts that attached to it to a much bigger machine. They put it on my head and sat me down on a chair. I heard your father murmur something about it being too early, and your mum something about how it was already late enough. I felt a little scared then, and said so, but they told me not to worry, so I didn't. And then they turned it on. I had never felt anything so strange, like a thousand small currents going through my head. But nothing much else happened, and they got angry with me and the machine. They turned it off and took the helmet off my head, and I was okay, except my hair had turned completely white. I cried, but they did not comfort me. I should have known something was wrong then and there, but I didn't. What I thought was, this may be it. They're going to abandon me now that I've let them down. I was more scared of being kicked off the project than the experiments themselves. Can you believe that? But I was just so scared of going back to the streets. After that, things were surprisingly okay for a while. Sure, I'd lost my hair color, but they brought in a new girl to live at the facility, Mo. I gained a friend. She lived in what is now your room, and we spent as much time as we could together in between experiments. Did they do tests on her, too? They mostly took blood samples of her, and they actually seemed quite nice again, now that they seemed to be remaking progress. But then it went wrong again, and much worse than last time. They took some of her blood and they injected it into my bloodstream. They took some of mine and injected it in hers. They sat us down in opposite chairs and told us to think our thoughts at each other. Then they put the helmet on me again, only it looked a little different this time, and it covered my eyes. And then they turned it on again. This time, the current was much more powerful, and there was a blinding flashing light. I tried to think my thoughts at her, but the feeling of the current turned into an immense pain, and I could only scream. I I fell off the chair, and I heard Mo shout my name as I lost consciousness. Breckan was stunned into silence, as Zoot swallowed and tried to keep his composure. When I woke up, my my left eye had gone blind. They they'd maimed me, Breckan, and they didn't even care. They wanted me to go back to being their guinea pig as soon as I was just strong enough to stand. I said no, but they didn't want to hear any of it, no matter how much I pleaded with them. They made me go back to that god-awful room and give them samples of my blood. Right then and there, I knew I had to run away. But I was still too weak from the incident, and I couldn't just leave Mo behind. If we were to escape, we were to escape together. But they would not allow me to see her anymore. He swallowed again. That that was the loneliest I ever felt. I was stuck, and there was no one to help me, or even just be my friend. Until one afternoon, when they told me Mo had been adopted, then I knew this was my time. I was going to run away that night. I didn't pack for my escape. I never had much more than the clothes I had on my body anyway. I just made sure I drank enough water and finished my meal that evening, because I didn't know when I would next have a chance to eat or drink. When darkness fell, I slipped through the orange door. They hadn't even locked it. But then again, why should they? I'd never tried to run away before, and it wasn't as if I had somewhere to go. But when I went through the next set of doors, I triggered an alarm of sorts. I heard a loud ringing, and I began to run through hallways and doorways until I at last breathed in the open air. I had to catch my breath there for a minute. I was still not completely recovered from before, but then I started running again. "Oh, what did it look like?" asked Breckan. "A kind of industrial place. I thought I smelled salt in the air, so I think it must have been near the sea. But I didn't get far. When I turned around, I saw your mother chasing after me, stilettos in hand. She was faster and quickly caught up with me. She grappled me, and we tumbled onto the hard concrete, fighting. For a moment, it looked as though I had the upper hand. But then I felt a sudden blow to the back of my head that made the sky spin above me. I looked into your father's eyes as he towered above me, one of your mother's pointy devils clenched in his right hand. As I carefully touched the back of my head, I thought I saw him mouth the words, 'I'm sorry, kiddo.' My hand came back wet, and I fainted once more. 'Jesus,' was all Breckan could say. After I woke up, all pretense your parents once had was gone. They'd hired a guard to keep me firmly locked in, and they'd taken my door handle away. They didn't compliment me when I gave them my blood. They hardly spoke to me at all except to order me around. I refused to speak to them and tried running away multiple times. But each time, the guard caught me, tased or hit me, and dragged me back to my room. Zoot saw the concerned look on Breckan's face. "If you do as he tells you to, he won't hurt you. But if you don't," he swallowed. "After a while, I gave up on running away. First, your parents were suspicious, thinking I was just biding my time. But when they saw the spirit had gone out of me, they gave me my door handle back. Just a week or so later, and you'd arrived." Zoot gave Breckan a wry smile. "And suddenly, I had a bit of hope again, or at least a reason to keep trying." He sighed and leaned back against the pillows. "It feels as though I've been stuck in an airport. Yes, that's the best way to describe it. I'm in a place that's not really anywhere, and the food and service definitely are not the best." He gave a haughty chuckle. "And I've got nowhere to go back to, and no way forward either. I don't know if my parents even think about me still, and I won't be able to handle the streets again on my own, and so that's it. I'm stuck." Zoot's voice cracked as he said those last few words. "We'll get you out," said Breckan, and he meant it too. "Together. We'll find a way to leave this place. I have a friend, Julie. If we can somehow get to her—" Zoot nodded. Do do you trust me now?" "I do." Breckan pursed his lips, wondering how best to say what he wanted to say next. "And Zoot, I don't know exactly what your parents did to you, but I do know that they are still thinking about you. Very much so." Zoot frowned a little, looking confused. "You're Richard Flanagan, right?" "Y- yes, but how—" "I figured out where I know you from. Your face and name are on every milk carton in town. Your parents desperately want to find you back." "They do?" "Yes, I'm sure of it." "Oh." With a jolt, Breckan realized that the milk cartons might be the reason his parents found Zoot instead, and tricked him into coming with them, and he felt a sense of unease come over him. Luckily, he didn't have to dwell on it for very long, because suddenly Zoot piped up. "Hang on. Wasn't there something you wanted to tell me?" And so Breckan explained to Zoot what he'd found in the bathroom. They agreed to meet in Breckan's room at midnight.